Welcome to another video on data to decisions. In this video, we are continuing from the previous video where we started building this stock price history chart, and we already built the basic chart. But in this video, we'll be building this interactive slicer where you can change this chart to go from daily to weekly or monthly. And we'll be building this slicer step by step and then connecting it to the chart to make it dynamic. So let's get started. So this is where we left off at the end of the last video. We built a basic line chart. So I'm going to go and create another sheet. And in this sheet, I'm just going to create what we need to create in order to build that slicer. So I'm going to type in just simply interval, which is what we're trying to build, daily, weekly, and monthly. Okay. So let's select all of them and create a table by pressing Control T. My table has headers. Great. And now I'm going to click Insert and do a pivot table. And I want a pivot table right here. No problem to keep it in the same sheet. And I will drag and drop here. So far, nothing is great here. But now we're going to click inside the pivot table, press Insert, and then insert the slicer. And then select the interval, which is the only column right now, and say, okay, so now we have a slice. Great. When you click on any of these options in the slicer, you see that the cell B12 becomes that value. Okay. So now I'm going to write a very simple formula here to say equals switch when somebody, whatever this value is in B12, that's what we will be using. Switch B12. If the value is daily, then just give me back 0. And if the value is weekly, give me back 1. If it is monthly, then give me back 2. I'll explain why we do this, but now let's make sure that it's working. So when I click on monthly, it changes to 2. When I click on weekly, it becomes 1. So it's working. So I'm going to name this switch function cell as I underscore interval. Okay. So essentially, we are capturing the user input in the slicer and putting it into this simple, cell. And now I'm going to click on the slicer, cut the slicer, go back to our chart page, and now I can paste it here. And I'm going to go back into the slicer options, change this to 3 columns, and resize it. And I want this to be, let's say, 0.5 height, 2.5 width. And you can't really see much, but what we're going to do now is to right click, or you can actually go to slicer settings by clicking here, or you can also right click and choose slicer settings. And display header, you can turn this off because we don't need, it's pretty obvious what it is, so we don't need a slicer to say that. So there we go. So now we have built the slicer, we've gotten it here. Now what it doesn't do is, doesn't do anything right now because it is not connected to the chart. So the way we are going to connect the thing to the chart is, if you remember in our previous video, we built the stock history, based formula. In this, the 1, 2, 3, fourth argument is interval. So we put 0 as a hard-coded value because we got only daily history. What if I don't put 0? Let's see, comma. You can see Excel expects 0, then it'll create the daily, it'll extract the daily stock price history. If it is 1, it'll extract the weekly stock price history. And if it's 2, it'll extract the monthly. So what I'm going to do is, instead of typing 0, 1, or 2, I'm going to type in I interval, which is where we are storing the user's selection. And press enter, nothing else. We don't change anything else. So hit OK. Now let's see what is going on. So we click daily, we click monthly, we click weekly. So it seems to be there. Now I can change the start date to 2023 January. You'll have more data, and monthly, daily. So So those errors that pop up sometimes when Excel is in between, when it's trying to extract the data from the service, and within a fraction of a second, sometimes those errors do pop up. If it happens to you, please let me know. And I would like to do some more research on it. But usually within a second or so, it clears and it pulls in the data correctly. Now, the other thing we have to do before we close this part of the video, order in which the daily, monthly, weekly is not really the right one. So I would want daily, weekly, and monthly. So in order to do so, I'm going to go back to the sheet. I'm going to select these three values, go back to Excel's options, and here go to advanced and scroll down to look for something called custom lists, edit custom lists. I'm going to click on that. And now you will see the default list, and maybe I've added something on my own. But for you, if you want to do the daily, weekly, monthly in this order, it's very quick. You can just click here, select, it's already selected for me, B5 to B7, import, daily, weekly, monthly. Okay, okay, go back to our chart. It doesn't automatically change for me. So what I had to do was go back to the slicer settings and change it to descending in the order. Descending, press OK, it changed to descending. I'll go back again and do the ascending. Essentially, it needs to be um, enabled and then turned on. Click on weekly again. It gives you the weekly history. If I click on monthly, it gives us the monthly history. So go back to daily, a lot more data points. So again, it's working. That was the focus of this video, to build that interactive slicer to make the daily, weekly, monthly chart of stock price history for any symbol. Now, in the next video, we'll be building this minimum and maximum points for this line chart. How do we know which is the minimum stock price for this symbol over the period that we are looking at in history? Same way, the maximum price. So we'll be building some simple formulas and implementing that in this chart in the next video. So please continue to watch.